Okay, hello and welcome. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and we're here for a new session in our Spring 2015 Financial Automation event series. Today, I'm happy to welcome a very busy member of the Dynamics NAV community, Mark Brummel. Mark probably needs no introduction to many of you. He is a longtime NAV developer and consultant. He has written books, presented at many events. He's helped form and lead the PRS initiative in the last few years, and he is regularly traveling the world doing training on NAV development and application design best practices. I was really honored that Mark would take the time to develop a new session for our financial automation series. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Before we get started, I would also like to recognize our event series sponsors and thank them for their support. They are Perceptive Software, Metafile, DocStar, Bottomline Technologies, and Avalara. So as we get started, please know that you can use the Q&A block or the chat that you'll see to the right side of the webcast screen to ask questions and provide your thoughts. We'll take as many as Mark has time for at the end. And without further delay, Mark, let me hand this off to you. And make sure you're off mute as well.
Okay, Jason, thank you. Let me start by sharing my screen so you can all see what I'm doing. And Jason, if you can confirm that my screen is shared. Good.
It is with your
Okay.
slides.
So welcome to my session about how to deliver better financial automation. Thank you all for joining today, and thanks Jason for hosting this session and asking me to participate. I was a little bit surprised to be asked in the first place for this session about financial automation because it sounds very functional, but after debating and some input from friends in the community, I decided that it's right at the point where I feel comfortable, which is the balancing act between programming and functionality. So this session could not have been prepared without the help of some friends, of which Andrew Good and Søren Clemenson I wanted to mention especially. So thanks guys. Without your input, the session would not have been what it is today. So for those of you who don't know me yet, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Mark Brummel. I'm doing NAV since 1997. Started off as an end user, worked at a couple of NAV partners, and have been a freelance specialist for the last 10 years. I'm the author of Microsoft Dynamics NAV Application Design, which is a book right at the balancing act between the functional application and the technical application, explaining a lot of the design patterns and data models and how the data flows through the system and how you can set up the software. I'm an associate of Liberty Grove Software, a partner in North America, and as Jason mentioned, I do a lot of voluntary work in the Dynamics NAV community. I'm an MVP since 2006, and I really enjoy speaking at all of the NAV events that are going on all around the world. And I've been the co-founder and co-initiator of some of the communities that are out there. And since a few months, I've been the member of the board of advisors for NAVOG in North America as well. So let's look at the agenda for today. We will start by creating a definition of financial automation and look at the history of financial automation in NAV. And then we will spend some time on the financial automation improvements in NAV 2015. There are a number of interesting additions in this version. From my own implementations, I have some real-life examples of high-end financial automation. And we will look at what Microsoft has planned for us in the next version of NAV, which is codenamed Corfu, from a financial automations perspective. We will wrap up the presentation with a list of development considerations when you want to implement these high-end financial automations yourself and which design patterns to explore and what is interesting. So let's start with a brief history of financial automation. This is something that I had to compile for myself after Jason had asked me to do the session. I actually started Googling or Binging the definition of the subject. So looking back at the history, we start with general ledger, which is the heart of every financial administration, and it has been with us for centuries. And until computers came into our lives, automation from this perspective didn't exist. Everything was done manually in big books, like the way they still teach us at school, which is key to understanding the business that we are doing. So if you look at this in NAV, the general ledger in NAV can be found in the chart of accounts. And here you can find balances of all general ledger accounts. You can drill down to the details, and you can navigate your way into the application. This is what makes us love NAV and what made it so successful in the last 30 years. Within the general ledger, there's a hidden feature that only exists at the database level. DBAs can see per general ledger entry if an entry is created by the system. And system in this case means that the entry was created by one of the operational modules of NAV, such as the sales, purchase, documents, jobs, inventory, or another module. Only when a bookkeeper creates entries in a general journal by hand, this flag is disabled. And I've calculated the percentage of system-created entries for one of my largest accounts who have been using NAV for a decade. And here you see that 99.5% of all entries in the system are created by the system. Only 0.5% of the entries is created by hand using the general journal. So from an financial automation perspective, one could say that the mission is accomplished. And this is true from a traditional bookkeeping perspective. And this is why we will use this session to move financial automation to the next level. Dynamics NAV has a specific architecture to create information in the general ledger using journals, which is illustrated on this slide. And using journals, we create entries. And this model is used throughout the application in a layered model and repeated for other functional areas. This is called design patterns, which makes recognizable software and generates a common language for solution architects. On top of this model, Dynamics NAV has documents that use the journal during posting and generate entries. This balancing between the application and the data model and how NAV works under the hood and how all the tables and code units are linked together. This is exactly what my book is about. This screenshot and this one is taken directly from my book, and there's about 690 other images and explanations you can find in there. So from a financial automation perspective, we identify different levels. There is automatic generation of ledger entry information, which is the basic of the ERP system. And we have pretty much accomplished almost 100% financial automation here. But there's also semi-automatic generations of journals and documents, which save us even more time, not having to key in data. And we have automation of data analysis, which we know as KPIs, and we have automatic posting of documents. So let's look at some examples in the application. Some of the examples have been in the application forever, such as year-end closing, fixed asset depreciation, sales and purchase documents, and recurring journals. All of these are processes in NAV that help us automate our financial processes and in some way of another generate journals behind the scene and generate the financial information. Processes like drop shipment, combined shipments, cost roll, and job invoicing are some examples of more advanced financial automation. And let's see what NAV 2015 adds to this list from a financial automation perspective. We will discuss 4 different features which were introduced in NAV 2015, which are the scheduled reports, bank integration and reconciliation, graphs and charts based on account schedules, and cash management, and last but not least, enhanced queues. All these features have dozens of videos on YouTube, so I will highlight them briefly and show you where to find them in the application and encourage you to find the videos on YouTube. Jason will publish the slides at the end of this presentation. You can download the slides and then you can use the hyperlinks to click on the video link that I provide. But this is only the top tip of the iceberg. And I used the readiness page on PartnerSource that Microsoft has compiled together. And with NAV 2015, I don't think there has ever been a version of NAV that has so much readiness materials that you can look at. So scheduled reports is a new feature that's basically something that is baked into the binaries of Dynamics NAV client and the service. And each report now has the option to be scheduled. And Microsoft has introduced a report inbox that tells you when a report is generated. So let's have a quick look at this feature, so you know where to find it and how to play with it yourself. This is Dynamics NAV 2015. You are looking at the role center of the small business application. This is one of my favorite role centers. Microsoft introduced the small business application in NAV 2013 R2. But back then it was kind of a hidden application feature or area because Microsoft internally used Denmark as a guinea pig for this part of the application. In Denmark, Microsoft is selling a solution called Dynamics C5, which is a legacy product they acquired, or actually Navision acquired it first by buying Axapta. And instead of updating it, they decided to replace it with NAV. There's about 100,000 users of this software in Denmark. So locally, it's as popular as NAV is worldwide. And the good news is that with NAV 2015, the objects that this is based on is now available worldwide. So every customer that updates his license for NAV 2015 or buys a new license gets these objects for free as well. There's a little bit of code cloning because of this in the application. If you look in NAV, let's have a quick look at the object designer. If we go to pages, for example, you will find, if you're familiar with the development side of the application, that in the 1300 range, the objects of this application can be found, and you can see by the name of the objects that it is no surprise that internally this project is called the mini app. So if ever you hear someone talk about the mini app is the not so nice marketing name of the small business application. So that is kind of a long introduction for a role center where I wanted to demonstrate the scheduled reports. You can see on the right top of my role center, let me hide these other ones, that I have a report inbox on my role center. You can show this report inbox on every role center, and it's very useful if you start using this feature, because otherwise you will lose whatever report you start to generate. And let's pick one of the oldest reports in the application, which is report number 1. We're doing financial automation in the session, so let's do the chart of accounts. And this is the typical request page that we have to fill out before we have to do report. And here you can see that alongside the traditional print options, we also have a schedule option. And if we press this schedule option, you can see that I get another request. I can put in the report output type. I can send it to a printer, and I can say when I want to have this generated. So currently the system is warning me that I don't have a job queue set up for scheduled reports. So this is basically where the demo ends today. If I press OK, nothing will happen. But what I did want to tell the developers in the audience is that this page is a page in the application that you can modify. All of the requests go through a generic function in the application. So this is as open source as anything else in the application, so you can also start enhancing this if that is required. Another new feature in Dynamics NAV 2015, if we look at the big functional area that Microsoft has been working on for the last few years, we can identify cash management. And in NAV 2015, they have shipped banked integration and automatic reconciliation. Both of these subjects are worth at least an hour of their own sessions, and we don't have that time today. So I will briefly highlight the features, and I will explain where to find more information, and from a development and architectural perspective, what is so interesting about the features. So from a reconciliation perspective, NAV 2015 has a new algorithm that helps you find the entries to apply. And this is really an impressive piece of engineering that has been designed. And the way it is designed is easy to enhance. And Microsoft has used the rules pattern, and the rules pattern is something that you might recognize as an experienced NAV consultant or user from the sales and the purchase pricing, where the more fields you populate in the table, the finer the granularity is of your pricing model. So they use the rules table also to define rules for the reconciliation, and this also allows you to very flexibly set up your own rules, or by adding columns to the rules table, you can actually make the granularity of the rules even more fine-grained. In Europe, we have SEPA import and export out of the box. But from a global perspective, Microsoft has implemented a connection with AMC banking to interface with your bank. And this is a built-in interface, and with your NAV license, you get one bank account free with AMC, and if you want, you can set up multiple bank accounts. And what AMC will do is AMC will convert the bank statement for your bank to a generic bank format that NAV can read. So this is something that I got from the readiness materials on this module. This is a flow chart of the algorithm that I copied from a Word document on PartnerSource, and I put this in as an encouragement for everyone to start investigating this, and both from a functional perspective and also from a technical perspective, this is something that is very interesting material to look at, and the way that Microsoft has designed it is very nice, and it allows you to enhance and change it, and you can use this in your own development as well. With NAV 2015, Microsoft also ships a couple of nice interactive charts, and these charts are based on the account schedules and cash management. So let's have a look in the application again where we can find these. This is again something you can find on the small business role center. If you open this role center, you get a key performance indicators on your screen. And if we select the chart, you can see that out of the box, there's a whole bunch of charts that Microsoft ships with the product. And the cool thing about these charts is that they are not just hard-coded somewhere in the system, but they are actually built on top of the account schedules and the cash flow module. So if I click on the chart, so let's go to the chart that we just had. So by next chart, you can browse through the charts, and if I can click on the chart, then I go in this case to the chart of accounts. Or if I click on this chart, I go to the account schedule overview. This is also a nice flexible solution that Microsoft introduces in NAV 2015. The only downside of this, if you start playing around with it, if you do an upgrade, the only way to import and export this from NAV to another database is Rapid Start, and the pages that are used, or even the tables that are used for the definition of these charts, contain some non-editable data. So I guess the way Microsoft populates these charts is also using Rapid Start. So if you want to add a chart, the only way that I know of to do it is by exporting and importing data via Rapid Start. I gave that feedback to Microsoft. I'm not sure if they will fix it in a hotfix, but maybe if someone in the audience knows of a better way to set it up, we can share some information on that. But I upgraded my own database from NAV 2013 R2 to NAV 2015, and this is the only way I got it to work. The last feature I wanted to discuss today is enhanced queues. I'm especially enthusiastic about this feature since this is one of my personal features. I've been asking Microsoft about this for a long time, and I'm really happy to have this in the system now. So those of you who are already familiar with the role-tailored client, you know that Microsoft introduced the queues when they introduced the role-tailored client. And they used to be a relatively simple representation of a filter table in NAV. And in NAV 2015, you can add more business logic to it, and you can add indicators to it to show if the values are any good or bad. So the first enhancement that Microsoft did is that they added some other images to the queues. So you can have more images than just a stack of papers, but you can also display other values in the database, like in this case the overdue sales invoice amount. And if I click on that, the system takes me to, well, the overdue sales invoice. And I can tell the system whether or not I find this amount to be too much, or I'm very comfortable with this amount, or I find it an ambiguous amount. I can do that by setting up the queues. I get a list of all my queues, and I can say that I'm happy with this threshold, or I want to have this changed. So If I change this one, it becomes orange. And if I say, well, $100,000 or $200,000, I have deep pockets, I don't care. I can even say that, oh, no, I made a mistake. So this should have been green by now, but it's not. Oh, this is because here's none. So let's make it favorable. Okay. So this is part of the application of the role centers, and if you add a queue to the activities, the queue is automatically added to the queue setup. So this is also something that they engineered in a pretty generic way. So this brings us to the real life example that I wanted to share with you, which is also the bridge to the development considerations and some of the things that are on the list for the next version of NAV, which is codenamed Corfu. So what can we expect from Microsoft in the future, especially from this area of the application? I have three examples of financial automation from one of my largest customers that I'm working with. They are a trucking company that use NAV for both the finance and the operations. Since NAV doesn't have a TMS system built in, this has been completely built in as a custom application, which by itself consists out of hundreds of objects. What we do is we receive orders both via EDI and a web portal. EDI has been custom built, and for the web portal we use Enveo from Germany. We built the EDI solution about 10 years ago, I think, or even 12 years ago. Not quite sure if I would make the EDI part of NAV again. If you end up doing 25 or 30 different file types, anyone who has been doing EDI within NAV know that maintaining that can be quite a challenge. It's very doable, but there's also very good engineered third-party solutions out there right now. And with the level of integration possibilities that we have today that we didn't have 12 years ago, it might be worth considering doing some part of your EDI outside of NAV, which then again simplifies the level of customizations you have in NAV and makes your upgrade easier. But it also depends on the way you do your EDI. When the orders are imported in NAV, they are automatically checked for data integrity, and this is done using a pricing algorithm. If the order is within a percentage of the acceptable thresholds, it is automatically accepted for the planning. You can compare this to the reconciliation in NAV 2015, and it also uses the same design patterns. So the advantage of this automation is that you can basically process hundreds and hundreds of orders with a very small team of people, and decrease the number of corrections of the orders after the goods have been received in the warehouse. Then, when the orders are planned and combined into trips, they are sent to the onboard computers in the trucks, and you may recognize the device as a transit board computer. And during the execution, we receive data in NAV that we use for exception management. For example, raising alarms when delivery is delayed. But the coolest part is that after unloading the goods at the customer, the paper freight documents, which are still mandatory in the EU, are scanned by the driver, sent to NAV via a web service, and the invoice for freight is generated automatically and sent to the customer via email. The invoice, freight documents, as well as the other information is then available on the Enveo portal. So I think this is a very nice example of financial automation and decreasing the number of the amount of manual labor. The last example is scanning of purchase invoices. This is not the rocket science that it once was, but the invoice is reconciled automatically with pre-calculated costs during the operational process. This is very useful, for example, for ferry costs. And if the reconciliation has no anomalies, the invoice is accepted and paid automatically without bothering the operational people with the checking process. So these were a couple of real-life examples of financial automation that I could think of when I did the preparation of this session. If you look at Microsoft's plans for Corfu, we can recognize some of these processes in their roadmap. This list is based on public information that Microsoft has shared at events, so there's no secrets here. But if we look at the stuff that you can find on the roadmap that Microsoft is planning to give us in October, we can see stuff like workflow, e-everything, which is a code name for a project internally to do more interfacing with the outside world, OCR, and improved CRM integration. So all of the things that Microsoft is currently focusing on is related to better financial automation. And this is basically bringing us back to the introduction of the session where we basically achieved 100% financial automation. If you look at bookkeeping in a traditional way, and financial automation that we're doing now in 2015 is actually more on integration and automation of workflows and creating documents automatically, accepting information automatically depending on certain thresholds. So what does that mean from a development perspective? Because let's be realistic. We all know that creating this level of financial automation is not easy. So there's a couple of development considerations to take in mind if you want to start thinking about doing this level of financial automation within your company. And I will try to avoid not going into real nerdy technical details and try to keep this at a level where you know what technical possibilities NAV has, and if you start considering doing these automations, what kind of technologies you can start thinking about, so that if you are an end user and you want to talk to your partner about automating something, that you know what options you have in NAV, and you can start you understand the terminology that they throw at you if you start talking about this. A lot of this information can be found in my book. Again, I apologize for the advertisement, but I think it's interesting. Chapter 9 of my book is dedicated to interfacing, and it contains a lot of best practices and technologies that you can use from that perspective. So we are going to talk about interfaces. We're going to talk about synchronous processing versus asynchronous processing, error handling, and a couple of out-of-the-box thinking considerations. So the first thing that that you will start running into when running financial automation and connecting a lot of instances to your NAV database and doing heavy analysis on the database is performance. And concurrency is traditionally not considered an area where NAV is very strong, but this has been changing and improving a lot in the last couple of years. The performance of the role-tailored client and the three-tier stack is considerably better than the classic stack ever was. If you look online, you can find some performance measurements that have been done by other MVPs that really show that the performance is better. And one of the technologies to think about when you start doing financial automation is using something which is called Autoincrement in NAV. And this basically allows you to write to entry tables without locking. On the background, this will do a SQL Server identity insert, which means that SQL Server will determine the unique value of the record. There are a couple of considerations. If you start adding some indexes, vSIFT or indexes, you reintroduce locking, but not as bad as the concurrency that entry tables have in NAV out of the box. Traditionally in NAV, entry tables are incremented one by one, avoiding locks, which is done because in a couple of countries where NAV ships, it is not allowed to have gaps between the entry numbers. But Microsoft is moving to auto-increment themselves as well wherever possible. In NAV 2015, auto-increment is used in reservation entries and in a couple of other application areas as well. Changelog is using auto-increment. And whenever I design something that has to do a lot of processing and it has to do real good concurrency, I try to implement auto-increment as a primary key, which helps a lot when you do intend to put a heavier load on the NAV database. Another thing that you run into pretty quickly if you start interfacing in the year 2015 is web services. Web services is becoming the industry standard of exchanging applications, and it's completely redefining the way we look at development. Things we would traditionally do in NAV, we don't do in NAV anymore because of web services. Web services allow us to do real-time integration between applications. And I'm currently involved in a couple of projects where, again, this is something to do with trucking, but a third-party planning solution we connected to NAV. And instead of doing a shipping module in NAV, we connect their software to NAV using web services. And it has a real seamless integration. Web services are easy to expose from NAV. NAV 2015 also has OData support. OData is, from my experience, a little bit easier to consume. And the advantage of exposing web services using OData is that in C# you only have to connect to NAV once, and you have all your OData web services available. If you use SOAP web services, my recommendation is always to implement XML ports and combine your XML posts into one code unit and then expose that to C#. That is easier than exposing pages because each page gets its own WSDL, and then in C# you end up adding a lot of individual web services rather than just one WSDL, and you can just add and play around with your code unit, and you don't have to add the web service all the time in Visual Studio. Consuming a web service is harder than exposing a web service. The easiest way that I typically consume web services is using a C# DLL, where you can balance between C# code and CEL code. Doing integrations requires typically a lot of nerdy coding, and C# is just better at doing nerdy coding than CEL is. CEL is a business language, and C# is a general language that has more possibilities, technical possibilities than AL has. But if the web service is really simple, you can also use XML, HTTP, and by that you avoid creating a DLL that you then have to ship. Shipping DLLs is a lot easier in NAV 2015. NAV 2015 has built-in mechanisms that automatically distribute DLLs across your system. So some of the downsides of shipping DLLs that we had in previous versions have now been fixed by the Microsoft team. Log, and log more. This is very important if you start interfacing. If something goes wrong with your interface, there's the external party to talk about. I always advise people to use staging tables. Save whatever you read into NAV. So if something goes wrong, you can see what you processed. Especially if the data that you read gets lost or is no longer available after you read it. If you get a lot of logging data, you have to clean it up. What I typically do in large implementations is you have a maintenance plan on SQL Server that typically optimizes your SQL database either daily or whenever your maintenance window allows you to optimize your database. And within a SQL maintenance plan, I always include a data cleanup step. There's nothing wrong with deleting some logging from SQL Server as long as you know what you're doing. You have to decide on error handling. Do you want your interface to block completely if there is an error? Or do you want your interface to continue and log the error somewhere where you can pick it up later and process that error or fix the error without the entire stream being blocked? This is interesting, for example, if you have a web shop and you receive orders and one of the orders has an error, you don't want any of the next orders not to be processed. Remember that your system relies on internet connectivity, so consider that when you design your interface, and always consider performance especially when you expect high volume transactions. NAV and .NET, since NAV 2009 SP1 we have .NET support. There are limitations, but they decrease with newer versions. If you run into these limitations and you start implementing workarounds, consider moving to C#, because if you start implementing workarounds and your code gets harder to read, it gets harder to maintain as well. Use classes as interface parameters. I'm a big fan of classes. If you go to my workshops, we will teach you that a table and NAV can be considered a class. One of the design patterns we teach is called the argument table pattern, where we use temporary tables as classes, which is a very, very handy way of coding in NAV. And remember that if you run on Classic Client can handle .NET perfectly via COM wrapping. The only limitation that you then get is that using classes becomes a little bit harder. Manage your source code. Make sure that you always have the source code of your DLL. So if you start talking to your partner and you want to automate something and they consider C#, make sure that you get the C# code. So whenever you want to do something with that code, you're not locked to your partner. Use Visual Studio Online. If you haven't looked at it, it's a great way of using Team Foundation Server for free. It's free until 5 users, which makes it very useful for typical NAV implementations and projects. And keep your NAV source and C# code in sync for version management. So if you make a change in your C# code and you add an argument, for example, make sure that in your NAV source you know that as soon as you roll out something in NAV, you have to roll out a new version of the DLL as well. End-to-end testing is very important when you start doing automation and interfaces. And from my experience, it's typically hard if you do an automation with something and the other side is hard to do testing with. For example, the board computer system that we use at the trucking company, we only have a live database and we don't really have a testing database. We can request a testing system, but it takes the board computer guys a while to set it up, and then after a while it gets old. So what we typically end up doing is we use a lot of C# to simulate interfaces. We use a testability framework in NAV, and we use PowerShell a lot. And this basically allows us to do end-to-end testing, and that way we don't get into any surprises when we ship something. We at least know that the NAV part is working, and we can do automated testing of our solutions. So a couple of design patterns, as promised, that you can look at that are really interesting from a financial automation perspective. The rules pattern, which is implemented in the banking solution for the reconciliation. I really encourage you to look at it if you want to know more. I don't think the pattern is officially published on Microsoft, but on Mibuso you can download the presentation that the design pattern people did at NAV Tech Days in Antwerp. And they spent about 10 to 15 minutes explaining the rules pattern and how it works from a technical perspective. The facade pattern is basically something that allows you to do loose coupling in NAV. This is something that that CAL or the engine doesn't provide by itself. We don't have reflection or any other modern object-oriented technologies. And if you design something in NAV, for example, you want to build an interface with a weighing bridge, and you want to allow different types of weighing bridges to be used, and you don't want them to update your source code all the time. The facade pattern is really interesting. Gary Winter wrote a blog about the facade pattern, and if you download the design pattern session from NAV Tech Days last year, he will spend a minute or 5 or 10 on this pattern as well. The MVVM pattern allows you to implement the model view model pattern in NAV. The arguments pattern and using temporary data sets. I like using the arguments table and the temporary data sets a lot combined. Using temporary data sets allows me to structure my code, and everything that you do with temporary data happens in memory on the service tier, and it just processes 1,000 times faster than anything you can do on the database. A little advertisement for the workshops that I'm doing. This is a list of the workshops that we have currently scheduled. We have workshops currently scheduled next week in Holland. Week after that, Belgium. Then in June, I'm doing some closed partner workshops in Romania and Japan. We have the UK, where Luc van Vught will do a workshop. Iceland with Gunnar Gessen. And then in October, I will be coming to the USA again to do the workshop for NAVAC. And you can look at the workshop details on my blog, and the URL is stated here. So a lot of information. I think we're doing quite nice on time. I talked and demoed for 50 minutes, and I hope I inspired you. I really hope I inspired you to start looking around and getting some more details on the stuff that I showed. And I think we can use about 10 minutes for some Q&A. I will leave this slide up so you can know how to contact me. So Jason, if you can help me with some of the questions, if there are any, of course.
All right. Well, so far, no questions, but I would just invite folks to use that Q&A block that you should see to the right of the slides if you do have a question, and we can get to as many as we can here in the next few minutes. Well, Mark, thanks, first of all, for taking the time and for developing this material, and really interesting set of stuff here to think about, especially for folks who maybe aren't developers and don't think about these issues in quite the same way as someone who's maybe building out the application. Well, so far no questions. I'm just going to mention before we make a last call here for questions that we also have a survey that will pop up as you leave today's session, and we'd like to get your feedback afterwards. We really appreciate that. Our speakers do as well. Okay, a couple questions coming in here. First, what's the name of your book, Mark?
It's Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2013 Application Design, and it's published by Pact Publishing.
Great. I put a link to that in the, I'm going to put a link in here as well, just so everyone can see it. We have a couple of other questions that have come in, so if folks might see that pop up in the Q&A block. So does the new bank reconciliation process work with North American banks like Wells Fargo, Citibank, etc.?
As the last time I talked about this with one of my customers using NAV 2015, she mentioned that at least 3 banks are supported by AMC. And I also recognize one of the names that you just mentioned. But I think if you go to AMC banking, you can click on NAV, and I'm pretty sure that there's a list of banks that they support. And I know that AMC is adding banks all the time, which is one of the reasons why Microsoft started to collaborate and work together with them, because they add banks all the time, and then Microsoft don't have to do it themselves. So
another question: do all reports have, if I understand the question correctly, do all reports have to be scheduled reports in NAV 2015?
No. I apologize if I caused any unclarity on that. It's an option, so it's a new option. So you can print any report like you've always done, but you can also schedule it. So it's an option on top of it. And examples are typical long-running reports. If you have a report that runs for 15 minutes or half an hour, you don't have to wait for it until it finishes. But you can also think about reports that you want in your inbox every day, or every week, or every month. I want to have a report with customer balances every Friday. You can schedule stuff like that as well.
All right. We are making a copy of this event available as a recording. That'll be up in the next few days, and we'll send an email alert to everyone who registered today when that is available. We'll also be putting a link to download the slides at that time. All right, it looks like we're through the question queue here, so we can start wrapping up. Mark, thanks again for making the time today to present.
You're welcome. I like doing it.
We like having you. I hope we can do it again sometime in the future. And if I don't see you before the NAVUG Summit, look forward to seeing you there and same to our readers. We have one other question here. Actually, 2 more if you have another moment.
Sure.
So one is, have you looked at trying to set reports to recur via the schedule report feature?
I don't think that it's possible out of the box, but I'm not 100% sure. But it is completely open source, so you can make small modifications to it yourself. So you can add recurrency if you want, but I haven't looked at it myself. I really encourage you to look at some of the YouTube videos on there to explore that.
All right, well, we'll end it there. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
That concludes today's session. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, Mark.